Hello and welcome to day 232 of the Not Alone Today Chronological Bible Written Plan. Today we'll just be reading Daniel chapter 5. We'll be using the New Living Translation.
Daniel 5. Many years later, King Belshazzar gave a great feast for 1,000 of his nobles, and he drank wine with them. While Belshazzar was drinking the wine, he gave orders to bring in the gold and silver cups that his predecessor Nebuchadnezzar had taken from the temple in Jerusalem. He wanted to drink from them with his nobles, his wives, and his concubines. So they brought these gold cups taken from the temple, the house of God in Jerusalem. And the king and his nobles, his wives, and his concubines drank from them. While they drank from them, they praised their idols made of gold, silver, bronze, iron, wood, and stone.
Suddenly, they saw the fingers of a human hand writing on the plaster wall of the king's palace near the lampstand. The king himself saw the hand as it wrote, and his face turned pale with fright. His knees knocked together in fear, and his leg gave way beneath him.
The king shouted for the enchanters, astrologers, and fortune tellers to be brought before him. He said to these wise men of Babylon, "Whoever can read this writing and tell me what it means will be dressed in purple robes of royal honor, and will have a gold chain placed around his neck. He will become the third highest ruler in the kingdom."
But when all the king's wise men had come in, none of them could read the writing or tell him what it meant. So the king grew more alarmed, and his face turned pale. His nobles too were shaken.
But when the queen mother heard what was happening, she hurried to the banquet hall. She said to Belshazzar, "Long live the king. Don't be so pale and frightened. There is a man in your kingdom who has within him the spirit of the holy gods. During Nebuchadnezzar's reign, this man was found to have insight, understanding, and wisdom like that of the gods. Your predecessor, King Nebuchadnezzar, made him chief over all the magicians, enchanters, astrologers, and fortune tellers of Babylon. This man Daniel, whom the king named Belteshazzar, has exceptional ability and is filled with divine knowledge and understanding. He can interpret dreams, explain riddles, and solve difficult problems. Call for Daniel, and he will tell you what the writing means."
So Daniel was brought in before the king. The king asked him, "Are you Daniel, one of the exiles brought from Judah by my predecessor King Nebuchadnezzar? I have heard that you have the spirit of the gods within you, and that you are filled with insight, understanding, and wisdom. My wise men and enchanters have tried to read the words on the wall and tell me their meaning, but they cannot do it. I am told that you can give interpretations and solve difficult problems. If you can read these words and tell me their meaning, you'll be clothed in purple robes of royal honor, and you will have a gold chain placed around your neck. You will become the third highest ruler in the kingdom."
Daniel answered the king, "Keep your gifts or give them to someone else, but I will tell you what the writing means. Your Majesty, the Most High God gave sovereignty, majesty, glory, and honor to your predecessor Nebuchadnezzar. He made him so great that people of all races and nations and languages trembled before him in fear. He killed those he wanted to kill and spared those he wanted to spare. He honored those he wanted to honor and disgraced those he wanted to disgrace. But when his heart and mind were puffed up with arrogance, he was brought down from his royal throne and stripped of his glory. He was driven from human society. He was given the mind of a wild animal, and he lived among the wild donkeys. He ate grass like a cow, and he was drenched with the dew of heaven, until he learned that the Most High God rules over the kingdoms of the world and appoints anyone he desires to rule over them."
You are his successor, O Belshazzar, and you knew all this. Yet you have not humbled yourself, for you have proudly defied the Lord of heaven, and have had his corpse from his temple brought before you. You and your nobles and your wives and concubines have been drinking from them while praising gods of silver, gold, bronze, iron, wood, and stone. Gods that neither see nor hear nor know anything at all. But you have not honored the God who gives you the breath of life and controls your destiny. So God has sent his hand to write this message.
This is the message that was written, Mene, Mene, Tekel, and Parsin. This is what these words mean. Mene means numbered. God has numbered the days of your reign and has brought it to an end. Tekel means weighed. You have been weighed on the balances and have not measured up. Parsin means divided. Your kingdom has been divided and given to the Medes and Persians.
Then at Belshazzar's command, Daniel was dressed in purple robes, and a gold chain was hung around his neck, and he was proclaimed the third highest ruler in the kingdom.
That very night, Belshazzar, the Babylonian king, was killed.
And Darius the Mede took over the kingdom at the age of 62. This is the words of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Just a quick summary of what we've read so far in this chapter. We read out that the king had a party basically, and he then asked people to go take the items that were taken from the temple in Jerusalem. So they brought the gold cups from the temple, and they started to drink from them. Then a human hand started to write on the wall. The king was really frightened. Nobody could tell what the words meant. The queen mother heard what was happening, told the king that there's Daniel who can solve difficult problem because he has exceptional ability. Then the king brought him in. Daniel said he can explain it, but he doesn't want the king's gift. Then he explained what was happening, told the king that the days of his reign were numbered and it's been weighed and his kingdom will be divided. Yet, with that prophecy, the king still dressed Daniel in purple robes, hung a gold chain around his neck, and proclaimed him the third highest ruler in the kingdom. But that night, the king was killed, and Darius took over the kingdom. So, just going to go through the chapter and say what stood out to us.
Just to put the story in the context of what we've read in recent days. So, we've completed the book of Ezekiel. We've looked at the very last dated prophecy in Ezekiel a couple of days ago about the judgment on Tyre and Egypt. And then yesterday we began to look at the conclusion to that sort of era. We saw in 2 Kings and Jeremiah how the immediate successor for Nebuchadnezzar, who was called Evil Merodach, was favorable to Jehoiachin. And that was just a picture of hope for things to come. But we know that at this time, the Babylonian captivity was still ongoing for the people of Judah. Now we're in a point in the story, in Daniel 5, where one of Nebuchadnezzar's grandsons, a co-regent for Nabonidus, the Bible did not mention Nabonidus, but many commentaries point out to the fact that he was actually the ruler of Babylon at this time, but decides to live in the desert, sort of retired, and so his son, Belshazzar, was the one that was ruling. But this is the defining night when things are going to change. The Babylonian Empire is coming to an end. The Persians are taking over, and that is going to lead ultimately to the return of the Israelites back to their homeland when Cyrus will issue the decree as the ruler of the new empire, if you will. So this is very, very strategic in the story. It's not just only the story of what is going on here, but in some sense it's also a swing, a pivot, if you will, in the story, for us to begin to see the prophecies about the restoration gradually coming right together. Yeah. What stood out to me is verse 4, where verse 4 and verse 12. Verse 4, where it says, "While they drank from them, they praised their idols made of gold, silver, bronze, iron, wood, and stone." And I find that quite interesting because earlier on in the book of Daniel, when Nebuchadnezzar had this dream about a huge statue, that statue was made of these items: gold, silver, bronze, iron.
Is it?
Yes.
I thought it was pure gold.
No, he was the head of gold. And Daniel interpreted that to say this is, how different empires will take over. So you are the head of gold, but there is going to be another kingdom that will take over that, and then another kingdom that will take over that, and then another kingdom that will take over that. And all of those kingdoms, as it were, it's just interesting that they are represented in the idols that they are worshipping. They have idols of gold, of silver, of bronze, of iron, of wood, and of stone. So yeah, it struck me as I read that. I couldn't help but remember that statue with all of those various components in Nebuchadnezzar's revelation earlier on. And verse 12, because this was the verse that got me to become, in some sense, a Bible teacher. I was in uni doing my first degree, and I've been praying to know what unit, what department of my school fellowship, my Christian fellowship, to join. I've always thought I was going to join the choir because I could sing and I could play the drums. And my foundation school teachers, we call it something like a discipler, kept saying to me, go and pray about it, go and pray about it. And I'm like, what's there to pray about? But I woke up one morning, picked up my Amplified Bible, that was the big Bible I had at the time, and said, God, my teacher asked me to ask you what department in the fellowship to join. This was the first thought that came to my mind when I woke up that morning. And I felt like someone whispered to my ears, Daniel chapter 5 verse 12. And so I picked up my Bible to find out if Daniel had up to 5 chapters. Yes, it did. Does chapter 5 have up to 12 verses? Yes, there is a verse 12. Okay, and I read it to myself in my Amplified Bible. And I mean, I didn't get it the first time. I read it a few more times. If there's anything, I know there's nothing about singing or playing drums in it. And so the more I read it, and I was also doing a mental search of all the departments in the fellowship. And then when I came to Bible study and I saw this thing about, exceptional ability to interpret and explain riddles and solve difficult problems and explain what the writing in this context means. And I thought, okay, maybe this might be it. So I went to my disciple and said, I think I would join Bible study. And I was like, yes. Almost as if he had known and he just wanted me to discover it for myself. And yeah, that's the story of the long journey that brought me into a fresh love for the scriptures and wanting to study the Bible for myself. So Daniel 5:12 remains dear to my heart. Oh, what stood out to you?
My one is how the Queen Mother addressed the king. So she didn't say, oh, my son. She said, long live the king.
Indeed.
Before then, putting forward that Daniel will be best placed to interpret the writing on the wall. And that's instructive to me in that when we have relations in high places or even friends that have authority in high places, we shouldn't just be too familiar, basically. We should address them by their title when needed before putting our petition across so that we gain favor, or so that we get heard. It's not just enough to say, oh, babe, what's up? When you know she's the chief of police and your son is having trouble with the police. You go proper, DCI, XYZ, could you please help me? It's just honoring to honor people.
Indeed.
And the second thing that stood out to me was how that Daniel refused. No, he said he wasn't going to take the gifts, but then we read later that at the king's command, he was robed in purple, and then the chain was put on his neck, and he was made the highest ruler, the third highest ruler in the kingdom. It doesn't tally, however, we didn't hear of any objection. However, the Holy Spirit directed my attention to the fact that at the king's command. So maybe Daniel didn't have any choice but to take the gifts. Or maybe he took it because he knew that the king, it would be meaningless because the king would be killed anyway. Yeah, but that kind of stood out to me in that he didn't want the gifts, but he was then made to take the gifts in a sense. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And the reason why he was going to offer whoever did this explaining or interpretation the third highest ruler would then be because he is already the second highest ruler. He wasn't actually the leader of the empire. His father Nabonidus was, but he was like a co-regent at that point in time. And so the only next possible honorable place to offer anybody was going to be the third highest ruler. But of course we know that did not last, in the sense that very night the kingdom crumbled anyways, and a new kingdom, as Nebuchadnezzar himself had seen in that revelation, with arms and chest of silver, was going to take over the head of gold. And it goes on and on like that. So we'll turn the page and we'll return to the book of Isaiah, where we'll also get to the pivotal chapter where everything begins to change from all these prophecies of judgment and doom to prophecies of hope, if you will, as we begin to look at Isaiah 40 and forward. Till then, just remember,
You're not alone.
today. God bless you.